we are going to learn about interspecific competition. Interspecific competition is interaction between individuals of different species that compete for the same resources such as food, water, shelter, or mates. In this interaction, both species may experience a reduction in growth, survival, or reproduction. Interspecific competition is a fundamental ecological process that can have important impacts on the structure and dynamics of ecological communities. Now let's learn types of interspecific competition. Exploitative competition. It occurs when two species consume the same resources and one species depletes the resource faster, leaving less for the other species. That is exploitative competition. For example, African elephants and impalas both feed on acacia trees, but elephants can stripe the bark and branches, leaving fewer leaves for impalas to eat. So this is an example for exploitative competition. One consumes everything and the next species is left with only depletes. So that is exploitative competition. Cite the example of elephant and impala eating acacia plant. Next, interference competition. It occurs when one species actively prevents another species from accessing a resource. For example, birds of the same species may fight over territory, and invasive plant species can release chemicals that prevent other plants from growing nearby. This situation, like plant releasing toxic material into the atmosphere, is termed as commensalism, like the negative interaction. The host is not affected, but the other plant is affecting because of its toxic elements. So that is commensalism, and here interference competition is something where one species actually prevents another species from accessing a source. For example, birds guarding territory and invasive plant species, etc. So, examples of competition: interspecific interference competition. Lions and hyenas compete for food in African savannas. Both species hunt the same prey, such as zebras and wild beasts, and sometimes even steal each other's kills. Trees in a forest may compete for light and nutrients, while taller trees shading out smaller trees and plants beneath them. This is a site of interference competition. In the ocean, whales and large fish compete for krill, a small shrimp-like animal that is a primary food source for many species. Importance of interspecific competition. Interspecific competition can shape the evolution of species by selecting for traits that enhance resource acquisition or reduce resource competition. So we have learned about two types, which are the exploitative competition. Exploitative in the sense one just completely uses that resource and only the next species gets in a very small amount. So that's exploitative competition. Cite the example of elephant and impala eating acacia leaves. Then interference competition. One species hides or just prevents another species from entering into a resource. So some birds which fight over territory and invasive plant species which release toxic materials from its roots. And another example is lions and hyenas, and trees and forests may compete for light and nutrients. Ocean whales and large fish compete for krill, a small shrimp-like animal that is a primary food source for many species. So interspecific competition can shape the evolution of species by selecting for traits that enhance resource acquisition or reduce resource competition. Competition can also affect the distribution and abundance of species within a community, and it can promote coexistence or lead to competitive exclusion. Understanding the dynamics of interspecific competition is essential for predicting how ecosystems will respond to environmental changes such as climate change or species invasions. Control measures. Resource partitioning. This involves dividing resources so that each species can use different parts of it. For example, two bird species can feed on the same tree, but one feeds on the leaves while the other feeds on the fruit. Next, competitive exclusion. This occurs when one species outcompetes another for resource, leading to the local extinction of the weaker species. Next, predation. Predators can reduce the density of prey species, reducing the intensity of competition among them. In conclusion, interspecific competition is a complex and important process in ecology that can have significant effects on the structure and dynamics of ecological communities. Understanding the different types of competition and their impacts is essential for predicting how ecosystems will respond to environmental changes and for developing effective conservation measures and management strategies. Next, herbivory, carnivory, pollination, symbiosis, mutualism, commensalism in detail with multiple examples. First one is the herbivory. Herbivory refers to the consumption of plant tissues by animals. Herbivorous animals play a crucial role in shaping the structure and dynamics of ecosystems. They act as intermediaries between plants and other trophic levels. Some examples of herbivorous animals are caterpillars, deer, rabbits, and cattle. Herbivory is an important ecological process that affects plant growth, reproduction, and survival. Carnivory refers to the consumption of plant tissues by other animal tissues by other animals. Carnivores are an important component of ecosystems as they regulate populations of their prey species. Some examples of carnivorous animals are lions, wolves, hawks, and snakes. Carnivory plays an important role in the transfer of energy and nutrients through trophic levels. Pollination is the transfer of pollen from male reproductive organ of a flower to the female reproductive organ of the same or another flower. This process plays a crucial role in the reproduction and survival of flowering plants. Pollination is carried out by a variety of animals including bees, butterflies, moths, birds, and bats. These animals benefit from the nectar and pollen produced by flowers, while plants benefit from the transfer of pollen, which leads to the production of seeds and fruits. Next is symbiosis. Symbiosis refers to a close and long-term interaction between two or more species that benefits at least one of the species involved. There are three types of symbiosis: mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. Mutualism. Mutualism is a type of symbiosis in which both species involved benefit from the interaction. Some examples of mutualistic relationships are pollination by bees and other insects, which benefit from the nectar and pollen produced by flowers, while plants benefit from the transfer of pollen. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria that live in the roots of leguminous plants. The bacteria convert atmospheric nitrogen into a form that plants can use, while the plants provide the bacteria with food and shelter. Commensalism is a type of symbiosis in which one species benefits from the interaction while the other is neither helped nor harmed. Some examples of commensalism are epiphytic plants that grow on the branches of trees. The plants benefit from the increased access to light and nutrients, while the trees are neither helped nor harmed. Barnacles that attach themselves to whales. The barnacles benefit from the increased access to food and water, while the whales are neither helped nor harmed. Parasitism is a type of symbiosis in which the species or the parasite benefits at the expense of the other species or host. Some examples of parasitic relationships are ticks that feed on the blood of mammals, the ticks benefit from the nutrients in the blood, while the mammals are harmed by the loss of blood and the transmission of diseases. Parasitic wasps that lay their eggs in the bodies of other insects. The wasps benefit from the nutrients provided by the host, while the host is ultimately killed by the wasp larvae. Understanding the different types of species interactions is important for understanding the structure and dynamics of ecosystem. These interactions play a crucial role in the transfer of energy and nutrients to the trophic levels and in shaping the competition and diversity of communities. Additionally, some species interactions such as pollination and nitrogen fixation have direct benefits for human society by providing food and other resources. Next topic, community ecology. Community ecology is a subfield of ecology that studies the interaction between populations of different species living together in the same geographic area. It focuses on the structure and organization of ecological communities and the processes that influence their diversity, stability, and functioning. Community ecology is a subfield of ecology that studies the interaction between populations of different species living together in the same geographic area. It focuses on the structure and organization of ecological communities and the processes that influence their diversity, stability, and functioning. Ecological communities are composed of different species that interact with each other in various ways. The interaction between species can be classified into several categories including competition, predation, herbivory, mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. Competition is an interaction between individuals or species that depend on the same resource such as food, water, or shelter. This can occur between individuals of the same species, like intra-specific competition, or different species inter-specific competition. For example, different species of birds competing for the same nesting sites, or different species of plants competing for the same sunlight, nutrients, and water. Predation is an interaction between two species where one species or the predator kills and eats the other species, the prey. This interaction can have a significant impact on the population dynamics of both species. For example, a lion hunting a zebra or a hawk catching a mouse. Herbivory is a type of predation where animals eat plants. This interaction can also have a significant impact on the population dynamics of both the herbivore and the plant. For example, deer grazing on grass or rabbits feeding on leaves. Mutualism is an interaction between two species where both species benefit from the relationship. For example, pollination, where a bee visits a flower and collects nectar while also transferring pollen from one flower to another. The bee benefits from the nectar while the plant benefits from the pollination. Commensalism is an interaction between two species where one species benefits and the other is neither helped nor harmed. For example, birds nesting in trees or barnacles attaching themselves to whales. Parasitism is an interaction between two species where one species, the parasite, benefits at the expense of the other species or the host. These interactions can have a significant impact on the health and fitness of the host. For example, ticks feeding on the blood of the mammals or tapeworms living in the intestines of animals. The importance of understanding species interactions in community ecology lies in the fact that these interactions can have significant effect on the structure, function, and dynamics of ecological communities. For example, competition can limit the distribution and abundance of species, while predation can regulate the populations of prey species. Mutualism can promote the coexistence of species, while parasitism can affect the health and survival of hosts. By studying these interactions, ecologists can gain insight into the organization and functioning of ecological communities and develop strategies for conservation and management of biodiversity. Nature of communities in detail with multiple examples. In ecology, a community refers to a group of interacting species that inhabit a particular area or ecosystem. Communities are characterized by the species composition, abundance, diversity, and their interactions. The nature of communities can vary. widely depending on several factors such as physical environment, disturbance regime, and biotic interactions. Some examples of communities include a coral reef community, a temperate forest community, a grassland community, and a freshwater pond community. Each community is characterized by a unique set of organisms that interact with one another in various ways. The importance of studying community ecology lies in the fact that communities play a crucial role in maintaining the functioning of ecosystems. The interactions between species within a community can have cascading effects on other trophic levels and can influence nutrient cycling, primary productivity, and ecosystem stability. For example, in a coral reef community, the interaction between coral and algae are crucial for the growth and survival of both species. The algae provide photosynthesis to the coral, while the coral provide the substrate for the algae to grow on. Additionally, the presence of predators can be such as groupers and snappers can regulate the population of herbivores such as parrotfish, which in turn can regulate the growth of algae in the reef. Similarly, in the temperate forest community, interactions between trees, herbivores, and decomposers can have significant impact on nutrient cycling and carbon storage. Trees compete for resources such as light, water, and nutrients, while herbivores can limit the growth of certain tree species by consuming their leaves and twigs. Decomposers such as fungi and bacteria are important for breaking down dead organic matter and returning nutrients to the soil. Overall, understanding the nature of communities is critical for understanding how ecosystems function and how they may respond to environmental change. By studying the species composition and interactions within a community, ecologists can better predict the consequences and disturbances such as climate change, habitat loss, and massive invasive species in ecosystem health and resilience. Next topic, characteristics of a biotic community. A biotic community refers to a group of populations of different species that occupy a particular geographic area and interact with each other. The characteristics of the biotic community include species diversity. The number of different species present in a community is known as species diversity. The community with high species diversity is considered to be healthier and more stable than the community with low species diversity. For example, a coral reef ecosystem has high species diversity with many different types of fish, corals, and other invertebrates. Trophic structure. The trophic structure of a community refers to the feeding relationships between the different species present in the community. This includes producers, consumers, and decomposers. For example, a forest ecosystem has a trophic structure that includes trees as producers, herbivores such as trees, and habits as primary consumers, and carnivores such as wolves and bears as secondary consumers. Succession refers to the gradual change in the species composition of a community over time. This can occur as a result of natural disturbances such as fires or as a result of human activities such as deforestation. For example, a grassland ecosystem may undergo succession over time and eventually become a forest ecosystem. Abiotic factors. The abiotic factors in a community include the non-living components of the environment such as temperature, water availability, and soil nutrients. These abiotic factors can have a significant impact on the species composition and overall health of a community. For example, a wetland ecosystem has high water availability, which allows for growth of aquatic plants and supports a diverse community and where waterfowl and other aquatic animals. Interactions between species. The interaction between different species in a community can be positive, negative, or neutral. These interactions can include competition for resources, predation, mutualism, and commensalism. For example, in a coral reef ecosystem, the symbiotic relationship between corals and algae is critical for survival of both species. The importance of understanding the characteristics of a biotic community lies in the fact that it can help us understand how different species interact with each other and how the community as a whole functions. This information is crucial for conservation efforts and for managing ecosystems to maintain their health and productivity. By understanding the characteristics of a biotic community, we can work towards ensuring that ecosystems are sustainable and can continue to provide essential services such as clean air and water, food, and other resources. Species diversity in detail. Species diversity refers to the variety of species within a particular ecosystem or geographical area. It includes both the number of species and the relative abundance of each species. Species diversity is an important measure of the health and resilience of an ecosystem as it is closely linked to the ecosystem function and productivity. There are several different measures of species measures and species diversity, including species richness, evenness, and diversity indexes such as Simpson Diversity Index and Shannon Index. Species richness refers to the total number of species present in a particular area or ecosystem. Evenness refers to the relative abundance of each species or how evenly distributed the species are within the community. Diversity indices take into account both species richness and evenness, providing a more comprehensive measure of species diversity. Importance of species diversity. Ecosystem stability. Species diversity is essential for the stability and resilience of ecosystems. In diverse community are better able to withstand environmental changes such as climate fluctuations, invasive species, and human disturbances. Ecosystem functioning. The presence of different species in an ecosystem contributes to the functioning of ecosystems such as nutrient cycling, pollination, and seed dispersal. Economic importance. Species diversity is important for economic activities such as agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. Many of these activities depend on the biodiversity of ecosystem, which provide the raw materials and resources needed for human well-being. Aesthetic and recreational value. Species diversity also provide aesthetic and recreational value such as nature-based tourism, bird watching, and outdoor activities. Examples of species diversity. Tropical rainforests. Tropical rainforests are one of the most species-rich ecosystems on Earth, with thousands of species of plants, insects, birds, and mammals. This high species diversity is due to the stable climate, high rainfall, and complex structure of the forest. Coral reefs are also highly diverse ecosystems with thousands of species of fish, invertebrates, and plants. The diversity of coral reefs is due to the complex interactions between different species and the unique physical structure of the reef. Grasslands are another example of diverse ecosystem with a range of grasses, shrubs, and trees as well as a variety of grazers, browsers, and predators. The diversity of grassland is influenced by fire, grazing, and other disturbances. Urban ecosystems. Urban ecosystems are often thought of as being low in species diversity, but they can still support a range of plants and animal species, including birds, insects, and small mammals. Urban ecosystems are shaped by human activities such as landscaping and land use, which can affect the diversity of species present. Next, latitudinal gradients. Latitudinal gradients in diversity refer to the pattern of species richness observed in different latitudes around the world. The trend typically shows an increase in species diversity at the equator with a decrease towards the poles. This phenomenon has been observed across various taxa including plants, animals, and microorganisms. One of the most notable examples of latitudinal gradient in diversity is the diversity of bird species in South Africa. The Amazon rainforest is home to over 1,500 bird species, while North America, which spans a similar latitude range, has around 900 bird species. This pattern has been observed across multiple taxa, including butterflies, mammals, and reptiles. The causes of latitudinal gradients in diversity are complex and are not still fully understood. However, several hypotheses have been proposed to explain the phenomena. One of the most prominent theory is the energy hypothesis, which suggests that species diversity is influenced by solar radiation and temperature. The equator receives more solar radiation than the poles, which results in higher productivity and more opportunities for species diversification. Another theory is the climate stability hypothesis, which proposes that species diversity is influenced by the stability of climate. Tropical regions tend to have relatively stable climates, while constant rainfall and temperature, which provide stable habitats and niche opportunities for species to evolve and diversify. In contrast, temperate regions are characterized by more variable climates, which may limit the evolution and diversification of species. Latitudinal gradients and diversity are important because they have implications for observation and conservation management of biodiversity. Areas of high species richness and diversity, such as tropical rainforests, are often targeted for conservation efforts because of their high biodiversity value. Understanding the causes of latitudinal gradients and diversity can also help inform conservation strategies and predict how biodiversity can be affected by climate change and other environmental factors. Edges and ecotones. Edges and ecotones are important concepts in ecology that refers to the transition zones between two or more distinct ecosystems or habitats. An edge is a boundary zone between two habitats or ecosystems where they meet and interact with each other. It can be a sharp or a gradual transition zone depending on the type and characteristics of the habitats involved. An example of an edge is the boundary between a forest and a grassland, or between a freshwater and marine ecosystem. Ecotone, on the other hand, are transition zones between two or more distinct ecosystems or habitats. They are characterized by a mixture of species from both ecosystems. They are characterized by the mixture of species from both ecosystems and may have unique physical and biological properties compared to the adjacent ecosystem. Ecotones are important because they support a high diversity of species and can act as corridors for the movement of organisms between different habitats. Examples of ecotones include the transition zone between the forest and a wetland, or between a savanna and a desert. Edges and ecotones are important because they provide a unique habitat that supports a diverse array of species, many of which may not be found in either of the adjacent ecosystems. These areas can also have unique environmental conditions such as temperature, light and moisture level, which can create a range of microhabitats that support different plant and animal species. Edges and ecotones can also act as buffers, protecting the adjacent ecosystems from disturbances such as fires or storms. In addition, edges and ecotones are important for conservation because they often harbor species that are sensitive to changes in their environment. For example, birds that nest in the forest edge may be more vulnerable to habitat fragmentation and loss than birds that nest deep in the forest. Understanding the characteristics of edges and ecotones can help conservationists identify areas that are critical for maintaining biodiversity and preserving important ecological processes. Overall, edges and ecotones are important components of the landscapes that support a high diversity of species and provide critical ecosystem services. Their unique characteristics make them valuable for conservation and management efforts, and their study is essential for understanding the dynamics and functioning of ecosystems.